1, 2, 3, 4.
5, 6, 7, 8. Who do we appreciate? Not Doc Rivers.
Not Doc Rivers. Welcome, everybody, to the Brickyard podcast. Here for another episode, getting brick, staying brick, every step along the way. We're going over the over-unders just released today by DraftKings Sportsbook, as well as going over the West in the NBA. We pivot to basketball as we go into the offseason. The winter of NFL free agency, we go over all the latest news, as well as going into the NBA, the playoff brackets, the play-in tournaments, and everything else.
Yeah, and most importantly, we have the documents, and we recapped in the free agency frenzy last week how the Baltimore Ravens and Houston Texans both opened the documents that we sent them. I sent the Houston Texans a document, and it said, "This is the year we need to get mean with Danielle Hunter and sign a badass defense." And what they do, go out there and sign a defense. And then we signed another document to them. We said, go out there and get another running back that's not a running back that has been from the past decade and retired for the past 3 years, who's someone not like a Latavius Murray or Melvin Gordon for some reason why he was on your team, or Danny Woodhead from years past. Go out there and get a truck. And they went out there and got Derrick Henry. So we're about to unveil even more documents on the show, so make sure you watch till the end. Hit the like and the subscribe bell. But we're here to go over the over-unders.
Yes. According to DraftKings Sportsbook, I have it right in front of me here. We'll start from the bottom and go to the top here. So we're going to start with the top here. Kansas City Chiefs, over-under, 11.5. Now, when I do these, I want you to give me the over and why. Over, under, or flat, right around there.
I'm going to go with the over. The reason why is we finally won't have Kadarius Toney on this team. Thank God they actually went out there and signed Hollywood Brown. I know we got a little bit worse on defense, but the Chiefs are great at drafting. It's probably going to be the last hurrah for Travis Kelce. Probably wants that 4 Super Bowls that Gronkowski was able to get with Tom Brady. And then Andy Reid is always contemplating retirement. So I think this will be another good year for the Kansas City Chiefs. Also, have some teams in your division in rebuild. So I think over is a good one for that. How about you?
Yeah, I mean, I think their worst season was last year. They went 11-6. So naturally, I think they get better at receiver. Their defense, we trust the draft process. We saw when they had to replace some key players like Honey Badger and how they filled him in. So I think that with their ability to draft, with them being the Chiefs, with them getting better at the receiver core, I think that they're going to definitely win over 11.
Yeah, fun fact, we actually picked them to go 11-6 last year, and everyone thought we were crazy, but
here we are now. The documents being unveiled. Number 2, we got the Ravens at 11.5 as well. Over under.
I'm going to go under. I think like 10 to 11 wins is going to be good for the Ravens. I don't see them having the dominating year they did last year. I think Derrick Henry will make them a better overall team, but the Steelers, they're coming. They signed Patrick Queen off of you. The Bengals are coming. The Browns are still coming. So I think it's really tough to have back-to-back incredible years in the North.
Yeah. And then the only other team with that same amount of win shares here, we have the Niners at 11.5.
Book them. Book it.
Over. I agree. Bengals at 10.5.
I mean, depends on their September. They have trouble, figuring out the first, 6 games. So can we, show up for the first part of the season? If they do, I'll take the over. But I think right at 10.5, I would just take the money where it is.
Yeah, I would push there because I think that also it depends on the health of Joe Burrow. We had that one full healthy season and we saw them go, I want to say 12-5, but the health of him matters. They did also take a step back running back wise. They have Zach Moss now. They're probably going to draft one. There are some missing pieces there, so I have them there. This one will be interesting here. Bills at 10.5.
Ooh. I don't know. I honestly have no idea what to expect from the Bills next year. At this point, I'm going to take the under because I see them right at 10 wins. I think 10-7 is respectable, especially because you have Josh Allen. Stephon Diggs is going to be another year older. You don't have Gabe Davis, but you still have enough weapons to win 10 games with Josh Allen's greatness there. And I'm not the biggest fan of Josh Allen, but you did lose your entire defense. So you can't
Yeah.
draft a replacement for Poyer, Tre'Davious White, and all the other linebackers you cut.
Yeah, I'm going to push on here. I think that 10 or 11 wins is what I would expect for them. We also saw how badly they started last year, starting off 6-6, and
Yeah.
it really wasn't until that massive win streak that they saw at the end of the season and the Dolphins collapsing for them to get to that division win. So I think 10, 11 wins. I think Vegas nailed it right there.
Yeah, I think that's good. We'll see how their draft is.
Yeah, and then staying in the division, the Dolphins are also at 10.5.
I'm going to take the over. They signed an entire defense this offseason. So you lose your biggest piece in Christian Wilkins, but what that does is it opened up their purchasing power to fill in all the little holes on their defense. Then you're going to get Bradley Chubb back. You're going to get Melvin Ingram back at the linebacker position on defense, and you still have Jalen Ramsey on that team. So overall, you met with Odell Beckham Jr. today, and you have a draft to go ahead and fix some of those other holes at defensive tackle. So I'm actually going to take the over. I think they're going to be right between 11 and 13 wins again.
Okay. And then as we pivot to the NFC, we have the Eagles at 10.5.
That's fine. You got Saquon this year. You should be better than you were last year. And Nick Sirianni knows what it feels like to have the knives pushed right up to his throat if he doesn't succeed in Philadelphia. I mean, the dogs were out for the Philadelphia Eagles last year, and especially for Nick Sirianni, people are like, well, if Belichick's available, let's fire Nick Sirianni or hire Mike Vrabel. So Sirianni is probably more motivated than ever to come back. And then same with Jalen Hurts. That was disappointing last year. And I think he was very probably injured most of the year as well. So he'll be healthy.
Yeah, I definitely take the over here. I think that they're the best team in that division. You have the Giants who are rebuilding, the Commanders that are rebuilding, and the Cowboys who will go over next that are in disarray. So
Yeah.
I think a lock for the over there. I think they're going to win 12 to 13 games. And then we stay in that division as well, and we go to the Cowboys at 10.5. And if you're a fan of the show, I think you know where this is going.
Yeah, so I have a Jimmy Kimmel joke for you. The Dallas Cowboys. Ha 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 ha.
Yeah. Good old Cowboys. I'm going to take the under because let's recap what they did in free agency. So the Cowboys in free agency, this is what they did. Nothing.
Oh,
they did absolutely nothing.
Oh, this is your lawyer.
No. We're still here. We're still here. No,
Yeah.
they did absolutely nothing in free agency, even though the fact that they have to sign all these different players, they had to make some big cuts. They lost Tyron Smith as well, so their offensive line got worse. And I don't know, they lost Dan Quinn, who was a big locker room piece for them. So I just think that there's tension in Dallas, and I just think that they're on the verge of collapse.
Yeah.
And when I feel it because we notice when there's cracks in the armor, we do have the documents. It's well documented if you're a fan of the show.
Yeah.
I think the Cowboys are expected to have a disappointing season next year.
Also, why are all their marquee free agents like, I'm all set? I mean, Tony Pollard, go get your money. And the Tennessee Titans did what the Patriots should have done and overpaid for him and for Calvin Ridley. And then after that, Stephon Gilmore is like, I'm all set, even though Trayvon Diggs had an injury issue last year, even though the secondary is your weakness, you don't want to bring him back even. And then the only call from a lawyer you got was not anyone's agent. It was from a lawyer representing a woman that wanted to sue Dak Prescott. So that's the only lawyer that called you this offseason. Not a good sign.
Yeah, no, Cowboys, I feel comfortable with the under. And then we go to Atlanta. They are also 10.5 wins over under.
Are they?
They are.
Interesting. I'm gonna push on that because Atlanta, I'm very worried about Kirk Cousins coming back off an Achilles injury. It's a very tough injury to come back from, especially in your 30s. And let's be honest, Kirk Cousins isn't the most athletic guy in the world. So I'm gonna stay right at 10.5. I think that's safe enough where you could win 10, could win 11, but to win that division, you need to win 9.
Yeah, I think that 10 is perfect for them. So I wouldn't bet that. I would push. And then we go to the NFC North. The Packers are at 10.5.
I'll go over.
I will
I'll
too.
go over. I think Josh Jacobs and that offense, I mean, we saw how electrifying they were at the end of last year. Matt LaFleur finally found his groove because I feel like Matt LaFleur was sure of himself, but just getting that confidence in the media, having that trust. Now everyone's like, oh, this guy's an offensive genius. It wasn't just Aaron Rodgers. And then now Jordan Love had that full experience and you get to know what it was like to blow a team out in the playoffs when you're literally the bottom seed in the playoffs there. They literally invented a playoff spot a few years ago so you could eventually beat the Cowboys because Roger Goodell saw the future and how awesome this would be.
He
And
also
then
has the documents.
Romeo Doubs, Dontavian Wicks, both of your rookie tight ends, Tucker Kraft, Luke Musgrave, those guys are all going to be better next year. It's the youngest team in the league.
Yeah, I like the over there too. I think 10 to 11 wins is what you can expect. But are they a team that I would be surprised if they won 12? Absolutely not. This team is young and they're thriving. But in that same division, they have the Lions, who are 10.5 wins over under.
Wow. I think over for both of them, right? I mean, the Lions, they still went out there. They got better. They've been one of the best teams at drafting in the league. Jamison Williams going to be the first year he plays a full season for them. And I think, honestly, this division could almost be like what the AFC North was last year, because if the Vikings draft someone like a JJ McCarthy or they actually get a legitimate quarterback in the draft and trade up, you have some pretty nice weapons still on that team. You still have Jordan Addison, still have Justin Jefferson, and you still have Aaron Jones. So this could be a really good division.
Yeah, I think this division is going to be really competitive. And then, excuse me.
Amen.
The Jets at 9.5.
Something tells me under. I can't believe in the Jets. I mean, here's a joke. The Jets.
Yes. I'm going to push here because I don't want to. There's a couple of rules I've learned in the gambling space. Certain teams will always break your heart, whether in real life or in the gambling world. And the Jets, they hate humanity. They really do. They are the George Soros of the NFL. And the Jets, don't trust them ever. So I have them. I'm not even going to look at this bet. I'm going to push.
Yeah.
What do I think they can do? I think they can win 9 games, but they can also win 6 games.
Also, the domain for Kennedy Rogers 2024 has been officially bought. So Aaron Rodgers may be the vice president.
Yes.
And you all are complaining, oh, I hate Joe Biden. I hate Donald Trump. They're both old. I wish we had an alternative. Well, here's your opportunity. Not endorsing anybody, but if you're going to complain, we finally have a legitimate third party, and it could be represented also by Aaron Rodgers.
By Hall of Fame quarterback Aaron Rodgers.
Hall of Fame quarterback Aaron Rodgers.
Welcome to 2024.
Ayahuasca for everyone.
Yes. And then same over under, but different team with different expectations. The Texans at 9.5. This is the most obvious one as far as I'm concerned.
So can I bet on this now?
You should.
Today?
9.5. This reminds me exactly of last year when we were going over this last year and we said the Lions at 9.5. This is a lock. They got Danielle Hunter. They got Joe Mixon. Their team, CJ Stroud, 1 year older. This seems too obvious. This seems like free money.
Yeah. No, it's definitely free money, but what are you doing? Why would you put them at 9.5 wins or 8.5, right?
9.5.
9.5 wins. They won 9 games last year.
They won 10 last year.
They won 9 games. They were 9-8 and made the playoffs, I believe.
I'll double check, but
I
think they won
believe
10.
they were 9-8 last year, but fact check me on that. But that was the worst that they were going to be. CJ Stroud was a rookie.
They
you
were
had a
10-7.
rookie. They were 10-7 last year. Okay, so even better than I thought. So they're at least going to win 11 to 12 games, especially when you have the Titans figuring it out, the Jaguars reeling, and then you sign someone who's in the Defensive Player of the Year candidate, and you also signed an entire defense around him. Now you're just going to be drafting for offense, going out there and getting weapons. What are we doing? Are you trying to lose money, DraftKings? Because I'm more than happy to take it from you, and so should you at home.
Yeah, this is a lock. This is the biggest lock of all. And then the Bears at 8.5.
Oh, leave me out of this.
Yeah.
Leave me out of this.
We made
Cole Kmet is worth 6 wins at the tight end position, which is historically great if you really think about it. 6'5" out of Notre Dame, 260 pounds, a luxury. One of the most underrated tight ends in the league. We literally talked about that, and then a few weeks to months to years later, then there started being articles written about it. But we started the Cole Kmet gravy train, so I give him 6 wins, and then we'll see if Caleb Williams is a bust or not. And we're about to find out.
We're about to find out. I'm not going to touch that either. Jets and Bears, avoid. Browns at 8.5.
I'll go over because you did what you did with Joe Flacco last year. Imagine Kevin Stefanski with Jameis Winston. My God, like Flacco's numbers last year, he was still on pace for like 20 picks if he played an entire season. It was like a Jameis Winston-esque. So Stefanski was like, okay, why don't I go out there and get the black Joe Flacco instead?
Yes. Yeah, no, I think I'm here for it. Jameis Winston on pace for 55 touchdowns and 40 picks.
And I'm basing this pick not off of Deshaun Watson playing. I'm basing this off of I think they could legitimately win more than 8.5 games with Jameis Winston because of Kevin Stefanski.
I agree. I think 9 and 8. As you know, we are part of the Dog Pound, so this is a Dog Pound podcast. Bucks at 8.5.
Bucks at 8.5. I don't know. My gut reaction tells me under for some reason. I think you lost too much on defense. You were able to retain
Baker and Mike.
Yeah, it was Baker and then Levante David, but Shaq Barrett is gone. Devin White is gone. You traded one of the quarters out of your secondary. Why are we tagging Antoine Winfield Jr. when he was all pro last year? Like, lock this guy up to a long-term deal. What are we doing in Tampa? I don't like the vibes right now.
Yeah, plus I think that one of those teams, you see it every year, scrappy team takes a step back the next year. I see that coming.
Yeah.
Chargers at 8.5.
Give me the over. Come on, Harbaugh. Go out there, get Malik Neighbors. You got your defense there. You got rid of all the toxicity in that locker room. You're like, you're old, you're overpaid, and you're old. See you later. I kind of like that.
I'm going to push. I think they're going to win like 8 games.
Okay. I think I could see 9.
I can see 9
to 10.
I can see 9, but I can also see 8, and it's not enough for me to bet my money. So I will push and give them an 8.
Okay.
Colts at 8.5.
Over what? The Colts at 8.5? Like, come on now. We have Joey Flacco at backup. He's there to also mentor Anthony Richardson there. We re-signed Michael Pittman. We got Jonathan Taylor locked up now to a long-term deal. We got Shane Steichen, who Joe Flacco was singing his praises on the Pat McAfee podcast. He was clearly behind Philadelphia. It's going to be a great rivalry between the Colts and the Texans. It's going to be like Steelers Ravens of this division for the next few years, where we have not Peyton Manning. We have Anthony Richardson and CJ Stroud there. It's going to be electric. I'm excited for the Colts.
Yeah, me too.
And they may go get Brock Bowers, so we'll see.
They might get Brock Bowers. In that same division, the Jags are also at 8.5.
Boo! You don't have fans. You don't have fans who even want to root for you or see you play when every team in your division is making a game-changing move and you're like, wow, that's really great. You're like, you know what we need? A coin flip at wide receiver for whether or not he's going to catch the ball or not. Really stellar stuff, Jaguars. Give yourselves a pat on the back for that.
Win total or fan total? You decide in the comments below.
Win total or fan total? Because you have none.
Rams at 8.5.
Without Aaron Donald, that is a tough proposition, but I'll go over. Puka Nacua is a dog. We got Kyron Williams. Maybe we'll go out there, get another running back. Still got Cooper Kupp there. Maybe Matty Stafford's last hurrah in LA. So I think I liked what I saw on offense from them last year, and they're a fun team to watch. So I'll go over.
Yeah, I'm going to go over too. Saints at 7.5.
Under. I mean, can we get another hurricane to fix this franchise?
Oh my God. Yeah, honestly, 7.5. That seems kind of high. This team sucks. They got rid of 1 million dudes. Get me out of here. I think their 7-10 is their ceiling. They suck. Get them out of here.
We didn't build a storm wall, but we have Taysom Hill. What's the problem?
And then we got the Seahawks at 7.5.
The Seahawks at 7.5. Give me the over. Seahawks are talented. They're out here making moves. They still have DK Metcalf on this team. Geno Smith is still a competent quarterback in this league. I think 7.5 is kind of rude, actually.
Yeah, I think I'll take the over. I think they win 8 games.
8 games. Yeah.
Yeah, I see it. Steelers at 7.5. Do they not know about the almighty Mike Tomlin?
Like, why do we have... Okay, so you have the Texans at 9.5. Easy dub there. But you know one thing is true. The only thing Mike Tomlin cares about is keeping the reputation for not having a losing record. And you think You're going to predict the Steelers to go under now that they have Justin Fields and Russell Wilson? They went out there and got Patrick Queen? No way.
No, I think 9-8. 9-8. That's what I expect to see.
9-8 every year.
So I think that's a lock.
Never had a losing season.
Commanders at 7.5.
Over.
You think so?
Yeah, definitely. They're going to get the guy at quarterback. They're going to be better. We have now, legitimate coaching in the building when you only had Eric Bieniemy last year. The only thing that worries me is if their free agent signings don't pan out, they're going to be the NFL's nursing home over the next couple of years. But I think they'll be good. Drake May.
See, I think 6 to 7 wins is what I see for them. I think that between the Eagles and even how bad I think the Cowboys could be, I still think they're going to be competitive. So them being third place, I think like 7 wins is appropriate.
They might have the best quarterback in the division next year, though.
It depends who they get, though.
It depends, but they might. I didn't say they will.
They could. I just think they have a lot of holes to fix. We'll see what happens. I think 6 to 7 wins. I'm gonna go under.
Okay.
Cardinals at 6.5.
Rude. Absolutely rude. We got Kyler back. We're gonna go out there and get Marvin Harrison Jr. if the Patriots don't mess it all up, but we're gonna see Kyler potentially with the next transcendent talent on offense, and then we also have Murpherman Practical Jokers coaching up the defense. I think the Cardinals have a little bit of resurgence for the first half of the season.
Yeah, Maserati Marv potentially in Arizona. That'd be pretty cool. I think that the win total is pretty accurate. I'm going to keep it pushed there. I think 6 to 7 wins is appropriate.
6 to 7? Okay.
Unlike this next team here, enemy of the show, you already know where this is going.
Enemy of the show.
New York Giants, or should I say New York Jones. 6.5, Daniel Jones. Well, Daniel Jones is on your team, so I think this will be an easy under.
Yeah, I mean, the documents state that until Daniel Jones is off the roster, there will be no positivity. There will be no winning. There's not going to be any green pastures in New York. It's just going to be pain and suffering. You had the choice between a Dodge Charger and a PT Cruiser, and you chose a PT Cruiser.
The only highlights on this team is Kayvon Thibodeau, Brian Burns, and Bobby Okereke. The Raiders at 6.5 here. Over under 6.5 for the Oakland Las Vegas Raiders.
Over. We got Anton Pierce. Let's go.
Yeah. They also got Christian Wilkins, and they still have Devontae. If they can get the quarterback right.
Yeah. Gardner Minshew could win you over 7 games next year on his own.
Yeah. Especially with the other team we'll go over next.
Yeah.
The Broncos at 5.5.
I don't care, to be honest, but under, because you're paying $80 million to someone who's not on your team.
Yeah, let's see. I mean, let's see. It's been a while since I watched like The Godfather and Goodfellas.
Mm-hmm.
And if I remember, like towards the end, like you started to see a lot of bloodbaths.
Yeah.
And like last year we saw that 70-20 embarrassment there, a lot of blood in the air. I think someone's about to get whacked. And I think that the Broncos 5-12, I see that in their future. Let me take the under.
Yeah, you don't even have Jerry Jeudy anymore.
Yeah.
Who's complaining about people who don't watch film, and that's why they don't think he's good. So, yeah.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, watch film, casual.
Watch film, casual. Yeah, I'm talking to you.
Yeah, watch yourself. Vikings at 6.5.
Vikings at 6.5. I have to take the under. Someone in this division has to suck, right?
I think that, their quarterback, I don't know. I don't trust JJ McCarthy. I know that he's getting a lot of hype now, but if you look in years past, think of some other guys who got a lot of hype. Zach Wilson, where did he come from? Midwest town. Was originally like a 2nd or 3rd round pick and then shot up the draft boards. Became 2nd overall. I don't know. JJ McCarthy, similar path. Daniel Jones out of Duke. Midwest town, shot up the draft board, got 6th overall.
Is Duke
Do I think? West? Don't worry about that part. But I think with JJ McCarthy, he worries me because he was a 2nd and 3rd round pick, and now all of a sudden he's going into the top 10. Some people saying the Commanders will take him at 2. I don't know.
Oh no.
Yeah, that's a mistake. Mistakes can be made.
Oh.
And what do we know about the top 3 picks? One's a bust most of the time. One of them's a wild card, and one of them typically pans out.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Usually go with the wild card. That's your best option. Go with the Anthony Richardson. Go with the Jaden Daniels. And, years past, other wild cards.
Yeah, other wild cards.
Yeah.
Titans at 5.5.
Over. For sure. This
Yeah,
team,
I agree.
they might go 9-8.
I actually think the Titans are in business.
Yeah.
We talked about the Jags and how they're 8.5. I think it's more accurate to see the Titans at 8.5 right now, given the fact that they signed Tony Pollard, Calvin Ridley. They went after L'jarius Snead. They got him for a 3rd-round pick.
Yeah.
And Will Levis, I know Will Levis isn't necessarily going to set the world on fire, but I think that Brian Callahan, OC for the Bengals, we saw how he assembled that Bengals offense.
Yeah.
I think that they have a lot more potential. I think they have a lot more upside. I think over is definitely locked.
Yeah, what's the thing they have that the Jaguars don't? Oh, yeah, fans.
And dog. 5.5. I can say the Titans definitely have more than 5.5 fans.
Definitely.
And then let's get over these last 2 teams. We're going to stay in the cold Northeast. Patriots at 4.5.
Under. They're scaring me. We're in New England right now. We are, Patriots, I guess sympathizers, if you would say that. But their
Something
fans
like
are
that.
definitely the best to bully. But, like, you didn't want to overpay for everyone. You're complaining, like, well, no one wants to come here. Well, there is a tax for sucking in the NFL. So if your NFL franchise sucks and you're in the cold and you're in Boston, Massachusetts, where all you have to do is Dunkin' Donuts, there's no nightlife in Boston. And then the taxes are ridiculous. Who would want to go there when you could go to Houston, when you could go to Miami, even somewhere like Nashville, Tennessee, or Las Vegas? But no, New England. But you have to overpay for people to be willing to come there. And then they'll be like, okay, you're going to give me $5 million extra dollars. That's fine. But no, will they do that? Absolutely not. And then you're just going to fade into mediocrity for the rest of time until you get lucky again with the last pick in the draft.
Yeah, you know what? I'm actually curious. Over under, is it wins or is it IQ points for their fan base? I'm going to take the under here because Patriots fans, I've lived around Patriots fans for 25 years. And just like Buzz Lightyear, I see no signs of intelligence anywhere. After all these years, Patriots fans are easily the dumbest fans of all the NFL fans. They will say we should trade the 3rd-round pick for God only knows what. Patriots fans are stupid.
Bro, we should trade the 3rd overall pick for 3 seconds.
There we go.
Over 3 years.
Patriots fans, if the Patriots front office listen to the Patriots fans, they'll never win another game in the NFL.
I always liked that Ryan Mallett. Let's see what he's up to.
Yeah. Now, the last team.
Oh.
Tepperville. The last team to talk about. Tepperville, Carolina Teppervilles. They're brave enough. 4.5 wins. Since when was their glass so full? Did we not witness the Panthers team of old? Yes, they got Deontay Johnson, Mr. 0 touchdowns himself. Yes, they lost Brian Burns. Yes, they lost Frankie Louvu. But yes, 4.5. Somehow, tell me how the math works.
Yeah.
They went 2-15 last year.
Uh-huh.
They lost 2 of their best defensive players.
Right.
They added a number 2 wide receiver, Deontay Johnson, who is on the decline.
A 3.
A 3 in most worlds, but for them, a number 1.
Yeah.
And yes, they bolstered their offensive line. I know the comments is going to say if I don't mention that, they're going to roast me. How does that compute? Now, I'm not the best mathematician here. 2 wins, loses 2 of their best players, adds a 3rd wide receiver, and bolsters their offensive line.
Yeah.
Where does the 3 wins come in?
Yeah, where do the 3 wins come in? Because also you hired the coach that was coaching the 14th best offense because no one wanted to go there. Frank Reich was like, this is awful. I don't want anyone to go through this or ruin their career. Benny Johnson and Bobby Slowick were sent emails from people concerned about their well-being if they even thought about going to the Panthers. And then the Panthers thought to themselves, you know what was a bright spot last year? Our defense. So let's even it up so we suck at offense and defense and get rid of 2 of our best defenders for a bag of chips when you could have had 3 first-round picks for Brian Burns last year.
Yep.
I'm like, what are we doing? And I know what David Tepper is doing with his keys. I know what he's doing with his hotel keys in the bathroom.
Let's just say it's not sugar.
It's not sugar.
It's not sugar. It's not cane. It's nothing.
It's not cane.
Whatever you do not snort it. It is not Fun Dip. It is not for children.
Yeah, and all it's doing is making him dumber. I know, like, Even Pat McAfee tries to be positive, like, oh, well, these aggressive moves like show he wants to like win, right? I'm like, no, how about it shows he's absolutely dumb and never should have made those moves to begin with. We sent him a document specifically saying, don't hire Frank Reich. Why would you do that? And then immediately he hires him. And then he opens up our document in the middle of the season. He's like, oh, I never should have hired Frank Reich. And then he fires him. Well, maybe you should read the document before you actually make your decisions.
I would have to agree there. But unfortunately, David Tepper, enemy of the show, probably the arch enemy of the show.
Who is he? Whose enemy is he going to be? He's not threatening enough to be an enemy. Oh, sorry. You're so threatening with all that winning you're doing. Oh, wait, you're not.
2-15. Give me a break.
But we had some news in the NFL. They voted today, which is Monday. It's a Monday in March today. And all the NFL owners got together and they're like, we should change the rules. So we're going to change the rule that has to do with tackling players. And they officially unanimously banned the hip drop tackle. And then every single NFL defender was like, why? Like, honestly, if you go to tackle a player to slow down their momentum, sometimes Rob Gronkowski is going to be carrying you on his hip. And then the hip drop tackle, if you don't know what it is, it's pretty much when you grab them and then you use your momentum to basically slam down back onto him. So you're basically dragging him down and you're using your momentum to slam the defender on the ground. But it's like, at the same time, the NFL is a contact sport. We all get you don't want players targeting other players' heads. But you have to kind of stop there because this is going to be one of the diciest penalties to call on what is and what isn't a hip drop tackle. And I feel like they may try this for a year because Mike Florio, of all people, of Pro Football Focus, was like, look at the statistics for the injuries where players have to use their momentum and throw other players on the ground, which other people call tackling. It's like, what are we doing? Like, I get it for offense, but now every single NFL defender feels slighted. You're like, okay, clearly everything is favoring the offense. And then you're going to also see plenty of hip drop tackles that aren't going to get called. It's going to be one in a playoff game. It's probably going to be a Chiefs defender who does it. And then the NFL is going to be another excuse where people are like, oh, everything's a conspiracy when they just can't call every single hip drop tackle.
Yeah, I don't like this play. I mean, first of all, I understand pivoting to a more offensive NFL. Like that's good for business. I get that. But at the same time, there comes a balance. And I think that the NBA has actually done a really good job of balancing it when it comes to whether it's swallowing the whistle or maybe adding some rules that might help the defense a little bit too. It's a balance. And at the end of the day, we don't want this to be turning into a 50-47 type of game. We want to see defense there. This is why we love players like Troy Polamalu, Ed Reed, Ray Lewis, the players of old. There's a reason why we love the Julius Peppers and the Luke Kuechly's of the world down the line. Like all these iconic defensive players, when they're limiting their ability to tackle, which they did the same thing with roughing the passer and being called so aggressively these days, eventually we're going to see a worse product in return. And I think I agree with you in the sense that I think that they're going to try it out for a year and then see the reaction of the fans and see how they respond. But I don't like this. I think that you've already done enough for the offense. The way you call plays, I think this is going to hurt the product a little bit.
Yeah, and it's like, obviously, when you use your momentum to throw someone on the ground to stop them, you're going to have more injuries with that. And I'm fine with you bringing up those statistics, and it raises a great question. But also, that comes down to teaching people the fundamentals of how to tackle. It comes down to practice time. How much are we actually practicing tackling? But it's also like, what are you supposed to do if you're grabbing someone? You're supposed to just let them go and run free, because now if you grab a defender from behind, you can't use your weight to throw him down anymore. And that's a play where a lot of star players have gotten injured on, but that's just been the norm in the NFL. It's not something that is currently related to head trauma there, but we had some of the premier defenders in the NFL sound off about this one, starting with 3-time Defensive Player of the Year winner J.J. Watt. He said, just fast forward to the belts with the flags on them. Basically saying, time for flag football.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, if they keep planning how to tackle people and just pivoting all the way to the offense, it's going to happen eventually.
Then T.J. Ward says, attention, all defensive players. When out there on the field, try your best not to harm the offensive players, even if you have to put their well-being above your own. These rules are a joke. No wonder every offensive record is being broken. Exactly my point. Exactly your point.
Exactly.
Javon Holland says, breaking news. Tackling is banned.
Yes.
Stellar stuff, Javon.
Stellar stuff, Javon.
Kenny Moore says, what is this league becoming?
Amen.
We are asking the same thing, Kenny.
Amen,
come on the
Kenny.
show and we'll talk about it. We'll have a heart-to-heart.
Kung Fu Kenny at it again.
Lonnie Johnson, relative of Ronnie 2K, says the new rule is BS. He's also not a fan of it. And then we had some comments as well from Vontez Burfict or Adam Pac-Man Jones. Just didn't feel like it was the right time, or we didn't feel like Vontez Burfict and Adam Pac-Man Jones were the best people to represent this. But we hear you, Vontez. We hear you, Pac-Man. And we think it's, as Lonnie Johnson said, BS as well.
BS as well. Lonnie Johnson.
Could not have said it better myself.
Front of the show.
But hip drop tackling is banned. Let us know in the comments what you think of the hip drop tackle. Are you a fan of dropping your hips? Let us know. But we also had a trade go down, and it was a pretty under the radar trade, but the Chiefs sent L'jarius Snead to the Tennessee Titans. Congratulations, Titans. L'jarius Snead, major player in the Chiefs' run to the Super Bowl, one of the best corners in the league there. So the Titans continue to go out there, get it done. You went out there, got a running back to go with Tajay Spears and Tony Pollard, probably going to draft one as well here. You got Calvin Ridley and DeAndre Hopkins right now. So it's not like you have the worst wide receiving core in the league at this point. And now you're starting to rebuild that defense, starting with one of the most important positions in corner, and you still have Jeffrey Simmons on that team. There's still some dogs there. You were still able to muster up enough to go out there and beat the Jacksonville Jaguars and spoil their season. So Titans really trending up.
Yeah, I mean, this is a team that when we went into the offseason, we're like, this team is going to be a 5 or 6 win team. They're going to be gritty, but they're not going to be that great. But now we look at them. They have the running back. They have the receivers. Maybe there's a chance they get Brock Bowers in the draft, potentially, looking like a tight end Hall of Famer, potentially. And then they get L'jarius Snead, plus they have Jeffrey Simmons already. This is a team that originally I thought they would be right around that 5 or 6 win mark. Now I'm looking, they might be better than the Jags. I think they might actually be the third best team in that division, potentially.
Yeah, I definitely think they'll be the third best team in that division. And I have, obviously the Colts and the Texans, I have in that 10 to 12 win range there. But now with the Titans, with every little move they make, I'm starting okay, probably start the season, we're out here probably 4 to 7, then we move up and we're actually no, it's probably around 6, 7, 8 wins. Now you're probably in that point where you're 7 should be the bottom of where you are, especially with a first-year head coach. And you could potentially win 9 games, not enough wins to get you into the playoffs or the AFC, but damn, that was a really respectable season. And then now it will be, how much of an impact was Mike Vrabel on that locker room? And was there something there where the players were kind of all right, we are ready for a new voice in the locker room. It is time for someone like Brian Callahan to come in here. So we have more of a offensive focus because it's mostly been defense, and how many times can we run Derrick Henry into a brick wall on offense with no real the offense wasn't the most, I guess, to put it politely, creative in the league over the past few years. It was mostly how many different ways can we move Derrick Henry around to see if he can get a couple breaks, and even if he does, that's 14 points, and we still need 21 to 27 to win in the NFL nowadays.
Yeah, I really hope, especially with Brian Callahan. I think that offense is going to look a lot more fluid, and I think you're going to see Will Levis reach his at least reach another level. And I think that he's a guy that we saw a little bit of him. We saw that game against Miami, and we saw his first game against, I want to say, Atlanta, where he looked pretty good. He was making some big throws. He's got a big arm, and I think that if Brian Callahan can unlock that next level with him and bring consistency, he's a guy that can surprise a lot of people. I don't think he's going to be a top 10 quarterback in the NFL, but if he can be in like a Kirk Cousins realm, then he could be really good.
Do you think he could be in like the Phillip Rivers realm?
Yeah.
Like kind of where like, yeah, gonna have the Texans and the Colts there, but there'll be like a few years where the Titans kind of break through there. But like, I agree with Will Levis. Like, it's a little bizarre because like he definitely has the biggest arms of any quarterback in the NFL right now. Like, he has pretty big biceps and triceps there, but dude can whip the ball down the field, and I think some leadership will really help him out. But like, I definitely don't think he was like bad as far as being a rookie.
No.
He wasn't supposed to play last year. You already had Malik Willis there, kind of
Massive
awkward,
bust.
and then Ryan Tannehill kind of just didn't, probably more of the Brian Hoyer vibe than the Josh McCown vibe as far as the leadership. If you watch that not Baker Mayfield, Johnny Manziel podcast where he's talking about the difference between those two mentoring him. So I think this will be a fun team to watch. And if you're a team like a fan of the Patriots, this should make you upset. Definitely very upset if you're a Patriots team where it's like everything that the Titans did is what you should have been doing. And then even the Jaguars. Where are you in this? Why aren't you trying to trade for L'jarius Snead? You need some help.
No, they're going to trade for Mac Jones, though.
Mac Jones, that's the answer. Let's bring two quarterbacks in the same draft class together in the same room.
2 first-round quarterbacks,
Yeah,
mind
what
you.
a great idea. So we had that trade go down. I was pretty shocked to see it, but bullish on the Titans. Let us know what you thought about that trade down in the comments below. Excited to hear. Are you worried about the Titans, or do you think they'll actually be good next year? Definitely let us know. But we're about to go over the West. If you've been following us over the past month here, took a little bit of a break last week for free agency, but we're back with the last divisional preview. And now we're going to go over, let's start in the NFC with the Seahawks, the Cardinals, the Rams, and the 49ers. What do these teams need to do to be competitive and win a Super Bowl over the next few years? Let's start with the hometown Arizona Cardinals. If you're looking for water, it's not there. It's all desert.
They need wide receivers. They need wide receivers really bad. They traded Rondale Moore. Hollywood Brown is now in Kansas City. So now you're looking at Greg Dortch. You're looking at who? You don't really know who at wide receiver. So I think with that 4th overall pick, if you can get Maserati Marv on that team, him in Arizona looks really good. And then maybe in the later rounds, you get another wide receiver. That wide receiver core is really weak right now. You have Trey McBride, who looks like a nice tight end. You were able to draft some decent running backs. James Conner's still there. So I think that you're still going to be in rebuild. Maybe you get some defensive players. They definitely could use more of a pass rush there.
Yeah.
But what they really need, especially for Kyler, we know how much he loved D-Hop. You know how much he loved Hollywood. Go out and get Hollywood Brown.
Yeah, go out there.
Or Maserati Marvin.
Hollywood Brown, I was going to say. But let me run this scenario through you. The Patriots, not the brightest team. Their over-under was more of a over-under of the IQ of their fans. Their fans think Bailey Zappi could be a guy in the NFL. Bailey Zappi walks into a team dinner, gives a speech. All of his teammates are cheering for him. What do you do if you're the Cardinals, if the Patriots are like, actually, we're going to take Marvin Harrison because we can't sign receivers and we haven't been able to draft them, so we're going to take the most surefire pick possible. And then you're kind of there like, okay, now what? Are you taking Malik Neighbors after that? Or are you trading the pick and then to a quarterback needy team and then taking a few receivers throughout the draft?
See, what I would try to do, maybe it's the Giants, maybe it's the Vikings, whoever it might be. You trade back, you take maybe like Romeo Odunze. If Malik Neighbors is there, maybe you take him. Take one of those first-round wide receivers because you desperately need wide receiver help. We know the Chargers are going to be breathing down your neck. They're going to take a wide receiver there. Or maybe you go after a Brock Bowers if he's available. Brock Bowers is going to be a great tight end, I think, in this league. So I think you definitely need a wide receiver in this draft. Maybe you move back if they take Marvin Harrison. However, it's the Patriots. We know from them taking N'Keal Harry over Deebo Samuel, A.J. Brown, DK Metcalf. The list goes on.
Yeah.
Whether it's taking Malcolm Mitchell over Tyreek Hill, whether it's taking Aaron Dobson over Keenan Allen and Emmanuel Sanders and all these other guys, the list goes on and on and on and on.
That's who they took Aaron Dobson over? Good God.
Yep. So I know as a Patriots fan of the last decade, if you think they should take Marvin Harrison, then they're not going to take Marvin Harrison. They're going to take the worst possible player available right before him. Oh, also, let's not forget a couple of years ago taking Tyquan Thornton over George Pickens.
Oh my God.
Literally 2 picks behind each other.
Yep. And then, yeah.
That didn't pan out, did it?
Yeah, I think that's a good spot to be with the Cardinals. Like mostly offense, because your offensive line, it's like, it's tough because you want people who are big, strong, and physical to protect Kyler Murray because he's going to be injured more than most quarterbacks, and it's just like the rule of gravity. He's a smaller guy. He can't absorb as much force as some other players, so the NFL rules start shifting towards him. But at the same time, if you do get those big, tall, strong, athletic offensive linemen, you're like, okay, can this guy even see over the offensive line? So that's the tough part about building an offensive line for Kyler Murray is, can he see the middle of the field? We don't know. And then I think wide receiver is fair. I definitely think Maserati Marv should be the guy there. Patriots definitely need to take a quarterback there. And then I think for the Vikings, it may be time to trade some pieces depending on what quarterback you get. And if they don't get the guy at quarterback, it may be time to free TJ Hawkinson. And I could see him in an Arizona Cardinals uniform. I think that'd be a great fit with Kyler Murray, where you could pair him with Trey McBride, have Marvin Harrison Jr. That would free up the ability to probably take a running back in the 3rd round, pass rusher in the 2nd round, and then I think you're in business. I don't think you're going to be able to win your division and get past the 49ers. However, I do think the Cardinals will be competing for the 7th seed there, as well as every single team not named the Vikings in the NFC North there. So I think it could be like Cardinals, Packers, maybe Bears, giant asterisks there, but they'll be competing at the bottom, and the Lions all in the mix.
Yeah, I think that's very fair. I think the Cardinals, I think they're basically just waiting the downfall of the 49ers and the Rams and Seahawks. They're just kind of waiting for one of those castles to fall. So that's where the Cardinals are.
That actually makes sense. And that makes sense why you would sign Kyler Murray, because it's going to be tough to rebuild, still have people interested in going there. But Kyler Murray is still a fun guy to watch live. He's still one of the most entertaining quarterbacks. So you keep him. Maybe it doesn't work out when he wants another contract. Then you can trade him, get some draft capital. And then when it all comes crashing down, that would make sense, actually. It's a good theory.
Yeah. Seahawks.
Seahawks?
They made a move. They got Sam Howell. They have Geno Smith there. Geno Smith has another 2 years, this year and next, on his deal. Will they keep him after this year? We don't know. They did lose a couple of players. Jordan Brooks is gone as well. So what do the Seahawks do? Well, they have DK Metcalf. He's signed up long-term. The quarterback situation is funky where Geno Smith is good enough to win you 9 games. Sam Howell, he's another guy that at his peak, he can win you 9 games. At his floor, he'll win you 4. So he's very parabolic. Yeah. They're into transition where they have that new head coach. So for the Seahawks, what do I think they should do? I think they should address the quarterback situation, draft a quarterback. Probably not going to get one first round just based on where you're picking. Yeah. But maybe it's a 2nd or 3rd round pick. Maybe they take a chance on Michael Penix later on in the draft.
Maybe.
But I think for them, they're going to try to build up that defense as much as they can.
Yeah.
Because they got the running backs. They have a decent tight end. Their wide receivers are good. Maybe they draft a replacement for Tyler Lockett, who is getting older. But I think defense is going to be their main priority.
Yeah, and I think defense should be their priority because you have the pieces on offense to do it with any top 10 quarterback in the league, even if we start getting down to 12 to 14 with DK Metcalf. And then Jackson Smith and Jigba is going to be in his 2nd year this year. He showed flashes of being great. Now that Tyler Lockett's not going to be there, it's going to be some extra looks over to him. So let's see how he steps up next year. You still have players like Boye Mafe on that defense. You might have 2 of the best young cornerbacks in the league in your secondary. So really it's filling out that defensive line and the linebacker position. And then as far as quarterback, it's like, okay, Geno Smith is your guy. He has about 2 more years left on his deal. You signed him to 3 years when you first signed him. My worry is that they're going to do what they did with Geno Smith. And they're going to be like, okay, Sam Howell, you struggled out of the gate, but you're a short white guy out of North Carolina. You should be sitting on the bench for at least 4 to 5 years. And then you could potentially be ready. And we also did the same thing with Geno Smith, signed him to a deal. Everyone's talking about, oh, how amazing the Seahawks are. They fixed Geno Smith. Let's try and do that with Sam Howell. That's my biggest concern with Seattle. And I say, still draft a guy, please. The Titans did this with, as soon as they got Malik Willis, they're like, nope. We're going to at least take a chance on Will Levis, and Will Levis might be pretty good. And there's going to be some underrated quarterbacks in this draft, and someone taken in the second round, we're going to be like, oh, I'm sorry. You should have been in the top 3.
Yeah, this happens every draft. Maybe there's 4 or 5 quarterbacks taken in the first round, and there's going to be a 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th round quarterback taken that's better than half of those first round picks. So take a chance on some of them, because you can't just keep running out Geno Smith, Sam Howell, Russell Wilson, all these guys over the past couple of years, this quarterback carousel, when you have in that same division Brock Purdy and Matt Stafford and Kyler. Like, your quarterback situation is the worst of all of those situations. Go out and get a quarterback in the mid rounds.
Yeah, definitely do that. So my message to the Seahawks is, don't do it. Don't do it.
Don't do it.
You know you want to, but don't do it. You got Russell Wilson in the 3rd round, and that pick was so good you were referenced in an Eminem song. I mean, it doesn't get better than that these days.
No.
Especially for an NFL franchise. And then after that, well, it kind of does get worse for this franchise, the Rams. So offense, everything looking really good there. We made it to the playoffs, and then all of a sudden we're about to make another push, and Aaron Donald is like, I'm out, 32 years old, made my money. I'm all set. There's other players like Chris Jones in the league, TJ Watt. I saw how good, Houston, blanking on his name right now.
Will Anderson.
Yeah, I saw how good Will Anderson was, and that opened up the door for me to be like, okay, can hand the keys over to Miles, and I feel like the defense in the league is in good hands right now, and he retired. And my biggest thing that the Rams need to fix is the defensive line, because you lost Aaron Donald.
No, you didn't just lose Aaron Donald. You lost your defensive line, because he was your defensive line. Without him, that pressure rate is gone, and I think it's obviously going to be very hard to fill arguably the best defensive player of our generation's shoes.
Yeah.
All the way. But maybe what you can do is do like maybe an Oakland A's approach. Oakland A's in baseball, if you're not familiar with Moneyball, 2003, they had to replace Jason Giambi. So rather than trying to replace him with one player, you replace him with 3 or 4. So in this draft, rather than trying to replace him and get that next Aaron Donald defensive tackle, maybe you go out and get an edge rusher, D tackle, and a good linebacker in the draft if you can. Which obviously the Rams, they've been good at drafting. You saw them get Kyron Williams and Puka Nacua in the 5th round back-to-back years. So if you can do that, but on the defensive side of the ball, then they'll still be in business. Matt Stafford, arguably the best quarterback in that division still. And you still have Sean McVay at the helm, big brain, obviously, Campbell's noodle soup man. So I think if that's what you can do that Moneyball approach, fill the needs outside of him with a couple of different players.
Yeah, definitely. And you have multiple needs there. So go ahead, fill out that defensive line. It's okay to take multiple players, and you're going to miss on some of them. And that's okay. That's just part of drafting. But if you take multiple, you definitely increase your odds there. So I like that. And then I would go with another running back as well. I think Kyron Williams is really good, but injuries are definitely the issue there that's kind of been sticking around. Maybe place a trade for one if you can. Someone's not happy. You could probably get another running back via trade or the draft. So I think you could do that. And then your tight ends, Sean McVay tight ends are always like the most nauseatingly mid tight ends in the world. I mean, Gerald Everett, who's
Tyler Higbee.
Yeah.
The list goes on. You probably had Drew Sample on that team at one point, if I'm not mistaken, too. Probably.
I think they probably brought Vernon Davis out of retirement when he was like 65. But overall, and then it's the health of Matthew Stafford. How is that elbow? Is he going to stay healthy? Does Matthew Stafford, how is his heart in this? And then if you don't replace your defense, this team could very well be the anti-Patriots next year, where your offense is awesome, but the defense kind of is kind of struggling to catch up, especially learning a new system, because you did lose Raheem Morris
Yes,
Yeah, Raheem Morris.
Yeah. You're not crazy. Yeah. That's right.
Yeah, it was like Raheem Morris and Raheem Mostert. I'm always like, am I gonna get them mixed up? One of these days I am, and then
Call him a
someone's gonna-
casual in the comments.
Call me a casual. It's okay. I
And
can
then-
take it.
And then last but not least, the inevitable 49ers. I mean, who did they really lose? They lost Chase Young. He went to the Saints.
Big whoop. You
Yeah.
lost Chase Young. Who cares?
Who cares?
You probably replaced him with Jadeveon. I think they replaced him with Jadeveon Clowney, right?
That's good enough. He's
Yeah.
basically Jadeveon Clowney.
Yeah, you can swap both of those in. They're like, oh, great first round. Then they kept playing, and then you're like, wait, what?
Wait, Jadeveon Clowney? You
Yeah.
look a lot younger.
And then they also said today 49ers have sent a message out to the rest of the league that Brandon Ayuk is not available. So don't do it. Don't call us. Don't offer us a trade. If you do call us, well, you're going to get our voicemail there. So I don't really know what this team needs. You have the best left tackle in football. You have a top 5 quarterback in football, according to some people, or top 10 quarterback. He had a quarterback who was in the MVP conversation. You have, a top 2 tight end on a bad day. On a good day, Cole Kmet's in that spot, but on a bad day, you have George Kittle there. And then you have Deebo Samuel. You have Brandon Ayuk. You even have Jawan Jennings. Who saw that coming? And then, you have Nick Bosa on defense, and you still have Fred Warner. You fired Steve Wilkes, so hopefully that fixes something on defense that was wrong last year. Diamador Lenore. It's like I could go down the entire roster.
Forgot about the best of them all, the white boy himself, Christian McCaffrey.
I thought you meant Kyle Juszczyk.
Well, he's also cool. Everybody knows how important the fullback position is
Yeah.
in this game nowadays. So Kyle Juszczyk, Christian McCaffrey.
It's like, of course, Christian McCaffrey got a sponsorship with Lowe's.
Yeah. Yeah, no kidding. So I don't think they need anything. Just run it back and figure out what overtime means.
Oh, yeah. Probably your coach. Your coach needs to know how NFL rules work, especially in the Super Bowl. Other than that, we're good. Also, don't blow leads. Figure out how to not blow leads, Kyle Shanahan. You don't need to study any other film besides figuring out how to not blow leads.
In practice, what you got to do is put 10 points on the board, 0 on the other side, and just maintain that lead. Do that every practice.
It's so frustrating because every time people talk about the 49ers, they're like, wow, this Kyle Shanahan run game. I'm like, what do you need to run the clock out? The run game. They're like, oh, I know what to do. I'll be smarter. I'm going to run play action with Brock Purdy when I have this much time until Chris Jones is in his lap. What a great idea.
Yeah.
So other than that, 49ers, good shit.
Just read up on the overtime rules. Read up about 10-point leads. Maybe, read some Doc Rivers motivation as kind of a catalyst to what not to do as we pivot into the NBA and talk about the NBA at large.
Well, we have the AFC West too, right?
We went over that last week, didn't we?
No.
Oh,
we still have another West. This one shouldn't take too long, but we got the Chiefs. I don't really think they need anything.
No, I mean, replace L'jarius Snead, get a corner in the draft, which I know that's what they're going to do. Probably with that first round pick, I assume.
Yeah.
So the Chiefs, I mean, the biggest thing that they need to do is just sever ties with Kadarius Toney, send him to the XFL. I'm sure the Arlington Renegades would love him on this team, or maybe pair him up with AJ McCarron on the St. Louis Battlehawks. That's where he'll go.
I don't know. The XFL is a little too close to comfort for me. I think he needs to be out of the country and on a different continent. Like, to me, like, if they're trying to create, I don't know, football in China or Russia or North Korea, that's a great spot for Kadarius Toney. In the United States or even Canada, even Mexico, I'm not comfortable with. But just get him away somewhere where he's not going to come back and have a chance to sign with another team to curse them again.
The Patriots.
As soon as he was a DNP coach's decision, everything turned around for the Chiefs.
Stock price went like the Bitcoin ETFs.
Yep. So the Chiefs don't really need anything. Just need Patrick Mahomes to be stable, do his thing there.
On their side.
The refs on their side. And then we get into some teams that are kind of spicy here. We have Antonio Pierce's Las Vegas Raiders. Max Crosby was calling for it. We were calling for it. You were even comparing him to one Dan Campbell. But Antonio Pierce is there. Gardner Minshew is now there.
The mustache.
Max Crosby is still there. Christian Wilkins is there now. We still have Devontae Adams. We may need another running back, but what do the Las Vegas Raiders, best defense in the NFL, after Antonio Pierce took over, need to do to get to the playoffs next year?
Well, I feel inspired that they have little ass boy Gardner Minshew there. Can they draft a quarterback to have him sit behind? If I'm them, I draft a quarterback in the middle rounds. Maybe it is like a Michael Penix, like we mentioned. Sit behind him. Let Gardner Minshew do his thing. He's a formidable starter. Let him do it. Draft a running back, because right now it is Zamir Abdullah, and I believe they signed another guy running back wise. I'm forgetting his name.
As Chris Collinsworth would say.
Alexander Mattson. They signed Alexander Mattson.
Now here's a guy.
Go out there and get a running back so that you can actually run the ball. Find a replacement for Hunter Renfrow in the draft. You can probably find it in the 5th or 6th round. And then on the defensive side of the ball, get some linebackers for yourselves. Other than that, your edge, you should have a nice pressure rate with Max Crosby and Christian Wilkins. Get some linebackers, get a secondary, and they'll be in business.
Yeah, I think that'll definitely work there. I'd probably honestly go after another edge rusher first for this team, because you have the chance to have one of the best defensive lines in football, because you could have situations where you only need a rush 3, and that's really what you need to do against Patrick Mahomes, because no matter how good you are as a corner, whether you are Eli Apple, whether you are Jalen Ramsey, whether you are Chris Harris Jr. from the past or Darrelle Revis, there's not too much you can do to slow down Patrick Mahomes, but what you can do is have 4 guys who can rush the passer, maybe just 3, and then you drop everyone back into man-to-man coverage, and then you have zones that can help there. That's really the way to beat Patrick Mahomes. So if you go out, get someone else in the first round on that defensive line, then we have Crosby, who plays every single snap. You have Christian Wilkins in the middle, then go out there and get another edge rusher, then fill out the rest of the defense behind them. And I think that's what would work for the Raiders team, especially this year. And then Gardner Minshew will be good enough at quarterback, but that's still a position that you need to address. But I'm fine if you kind of stay in this rebuilding phase where maybe we wait till next year if we don't have the right guy. And if we run it with Gardner Minshew, that's fine, because he fits the culture. He's a dog. Las Vegas, he's probably going to live in a van somewhere and play pickleball with MILFs like he's proclaimed that he does in Florida. And then you have Antonio Pierce there and Devontae Adams, and then you go out there and get a running back. You can still be competitive with Gardner Minshew, because you beat Patrick Mahomes without Aiden O'Connell completing a pass after the first quarter. So a lot is possible under that man.
A lot is possible. Maybe, I know they drafted Tyree Wilson last year. He hasn't panned out so far.
Yeah.
Do you think that having Max Crosby and Christian Wilkins there helps him potentially get to that next level?
It could. Yeah, some players need some time to either like put on that muscle or get that extra edge in them in the NFL. Usually the defensive ends, though, you see it a little bit early on. So this is probably going to be his last chance. Maybe they bring in some competition for him. But yeah, if he doesn't take the next step this year, I don't know, maybe time to trade him.
What you guys should really do, the Raiders, if you look at the last 20 years with their first round picks, just trade with the Panthers' first, second round pick. So they're the very first pick of the second round. Trade your pick to the second round, because you cannot pick first round picks to save your life.
Yeah,
Henry Ruggs, Tyree Wilson, the list goes on. Please.
Yeah, Henry Ruggs was a rough one.
He was reckless, dare we say.
Yeah, hopefully the Raiders aren't as reckless. Especially with that new hip drop tackle rule, could be a lot of penalties there. And then we have 2 teams that are in full rebuild. I think even rebuilding more than the Broncos are. We have the Chargers with Justin Herbert, Jim Harbaugh. We had Keenan Allen on that team. He said, "You're old. Please leave." Okay. Exit stage left. And then Austin Eckler, "We don't want to pay you, so we don't pay running backs." And we're actually pretty fucking good at drafting them. And then we also had Mike Williams, 7 years, injury issues.
Hasta luego.
Hasta luego. Have fun in New York with the Jets, said no one ever. And then kept all the pieces in place on defense. He said Nick Bosa, that's what gets Jim Harbaugh fired up. Khalil Mack, that got him fired up. That's what got the chutzpah in his legs when he was building that gym, the new facility in Chargers. It's going to be Jim Harbaugh's team. I think you definitely need every single skill position on offense at this point right now.
You think? Right now, their number one is Quentin Johnson
From last year?
from last year. The guy who had the
No.
hands of a crippled veteran with just nubs of fingers.
That's rude to veterans.
That man could not catch a cold. That guy was so bad. Now, maybe with coaching and maybe a prayer from God, he can learn to catch a football. But if he cannot, then they desperately need to draft not one, not two, 3 wide receivers at the minimum, and do draft Brock Bowers as well. So then you guys have weapons, because right now Justin Herbert is in for a world of hurt, because right now his number one receiver is Gus Edwards.
What about running back too? Because like I feel like Gus Edwards is good, but he still has some injury issues there, and I think you definitely still need someone to replace Eckler. Like I guess receivers are probably more important at this point for Herbert. You're gonna go out there and get Malik Neighbors. Maybe you can trade for someone there, but like 4 receivers and a tight end, plus you still need another running back. It's a lot of work to do with the Chargers.
If I know the Chargers, this is how they've been the last 20 years, right?
Right.
Recap. They drafted LaDainian Tomlinson. Maybe you've heard of him. Arguably the best running back of the 21st century. You could argue it at least.
Yeah.
And then to replace him, they drafted this guy named Darren Sproles. Maybe you heard of him. He was pretty good at football, I heard. And then after him, they drafted this guy named Melvin Gordon. He was pretty good. They moved on from him. They drafted this guy named Austin Eckler. He was pretty good at football. And now they're on to their next era of running backs. Chargers no running backs. So I have no faith. Whether they draft him with the last pick in the draft or the first pick in the draft,
Yeah.
they're going to hit on the running back, whoever it is. You see him, they're going to go to the Chargers. You're going to go, yep, that's the guy.
Yeah, that's the guy. Well, yeah, my concern though would be like Jim Harbaugh, defensive enthusiast. Maybe he goes and gets Malik Neighbors and is like, I actually want to fill in this defense here, because I feel like if we have a really great defense, good enough receivers with someone like Malik Neighbors, we bring in another receiver in the draft, but he may hit on every single pick this year, similar to what Pete Carroll did when he just came from USC to Seattle there. So my one concern with that would be Jim Harbaugh being like, actually, I still want some pieces on defense too when I need 3 receivers, a tight end, and another running back.
Yeah, I think looking at that receiver core, they have to. They have to. They lost Keenan. They traded Keenan Allen. They cut ties with Mike Williams, who is now going to be in New Jersey.
Yeah.
I think they have to. I think Malik Neighbors is who they take with that first pick. Maybe you go Brock Bowers, but I don't think the tight end's that much of an issue or that important either.
Yeah.
Go out and get Malik Neighbors. If you're lucky enough to have Maserati Marv fall in your laps, then go ahead and do that. But I think that you're going to probably get Malik Neighbors or Romeo Odunze.
Romeo Dunze. Yeah, and I'm good with either of those. So definitely offense. Let's get Justin Herbert some help here. And they even need help on the offensive line too. Like, let's not forget that the reason Justin Herbert got injured last year was because everyone was like, oh, turnstile. That's great. How are you doing, Justin Herbert? You're on the ground, and actually you're out for the rest of the season, which was definitely sad to see for the Chargers there. But not as sad as the Denver Broncos, and I've always been like the Broncos. Okay, that's fine. I watched The Ranch. I get it. John Elway, Peyton Manning. You had some good years. You had some good runs there, and then everything else has been like, the Broncos.
Mid.
And now it's Sean Payton. He comes in, makes it a point to say, Russell Wilson, stop kissing babies, even though Drew Brees did the same thing in New Orleans. What's with that double standard? And then he chose every single opportunity with the media to undermine Russell Wilson. Then he comes into Denver and he's like, I would be shocked if we're not in the playoffs. And then he has not even a good backup quarterback on his team in Jarrett Stidham. He did have that one
Sounds good to me.
really great game with the Raiders last year, but he had weapons everywhere. And then he was like, Russell Wilson, even though I said we shouldn't rebuild and we should always have the best player available to win us games on the field, and you're having a okay season where people are actually arguing that you're a lot better than last year, even though you were, I want you to sit on the bench to make sure we don't lose any more money than we are going to, because we're already going to lose $80 million. And now the entire organization is a mess, and this may take 3 years to fix. Because basically this year, like, What are we going to do? We can't spend any money because that guy is in Pittsburgh saying, let's weld. So what do the Broncos do?
Pray.
Pray.
They pray. They get off of the horse and they stop riding. That is what they do. I think what they should really do, honest to God, I don't usually recommend tanking, but for the Broncos, this could actually benefit them. They suck next year. Maybe they're 3-14. They build, they grow the weeds, as Nick Sirianni once said.
Your roots, yeah.
Built the roots, right? They suck all of next year. They're the worst team, arguably competing with Tepperville. And then next year, maybe it's Shedeur Sanders that they go after. Oh, or maybe it's one of the other top quarterbacks, but they need a Manning, potentially Arch Manning, if he's around. So I think that's what I would consider doing if I were the Broncos, because you're drafting far enough in the draft where you're not going to go out and get a J.J. McCarthy or a Jaden Daniels or any of these other guys. They're going to be drafted in the top 10, most likely. You're going to have to wait to the end of the draft, and that's a gamble. You're screwed. Your quarterback's going to be Jared Stidham, and you're going to be terrible.
Yeah, and you're going to take someone in the draft, but honestly, I feel like this is probably the reason why they legalized mushrooms in Denver, because of all the psychedelic therapeutics their fans are going to need after how awful this team is going to be, after having to deal with Russell Wilson. Broncos country likes ride, and like, okay, I understand why you legalize mushrooms now, and it makes a lot of sense. We have the studies about how it helps veterans with PTSD. We obviously have the numerous doctors that have come out and said, yeah, mushrooms can be used for getting over trauma and therapeutics. Well, how about we get over those Russell Wilson years? We get over that $80 million in dead cap. And then honestly, Broncos, like, I can't even tell you what to do because you screwed yourself so bad chasing Russell Wilson. And I don't blame you for it because no one could have seen that coming. You swung for the fences, but you missed. So now it's your time to pay in for your 3 to 5 years of irrelevance. And we'll check in on you next year, the year after that. But it's like 3 to 5 years. I don't even want to talk about how to fix it. I really don't. It's pathetic.
What you could do, go to the mushroom store, take a giant handful, put it in your mouth. And if you take enough shrooms, Jared Stidham could eventually morph into Jay Cutler, hopefully, for yourself.
Maybe.
Or maybe a Jake Plummer. Maybe we just go to the 2000s Broncos quarterbacks like the Jake Plummers of the world, like the Jay Cutlers, like the Kyle Ortons, Tim Tebow era. Maybe that's where we go to. I don't know. Or maybe, just maybe we go to the vault. We go to some of these quarterbacks who haven't had their opportunity a while. I know Colin Kaepernick's ready. He's 32. He's nice and young, fresh legs. Maybe you go after him. But whoever it is, you're going to have to advise from a doctor because you guys are screwed.
It's fine, though, that the Broncos suck. You know why? Because we got basketball, too, in Denver. And you have the best player in the league in basketball. I'm so sorry about what I said about the Broncos. I really am. But I had to get that out of my system. But I'm here to praise your Denver Nuggets because I happen to be a giant fan of Nikola Jokic. Always was a fan of Jamal Murray coming out. I wanted the Celtics to take Jamal Murray over Marcus Smart. They didn't do that, and they didn't take Giannis over Kelly Olynyk. It happens. And then you had Michael Porter in that draft. Also a fan of him. He's averaging upwards of 20 points after the All-Star break. He's coming on, but we're here to kind of go over, going to make a little bit of a profile for each team and then heavily focus on those lower seeds for previewing the NBA playoffs. We're going to be off for a week because we're going to be in Texas, but we're going to start to go over the NBA standings each week, do a little bit of a health check on each team. So do you want to start from the top and work our way down, then focus on the in-season tournament, or should we get the bad sadness of Steph Curry being the 10 seed out of the way?
Let's get the sadness out. We are an optimistic podcast, and I like to end on a bright note. So we'll start with the sadness.
Yeah, we'll start with the sadness here. So let's start with the East because this is honestly pathetic. The 10 and the 9 seed in the play-in tournament currently scheduled to play against each other are the Atlanta Hawks with Trae Young, DeJounte Murray there still doing their thing. Trae Young having a little bit of a down year with some injuries he's been working through. He's going to miss the Celtics game later this week. Then we have the Bulls, the sadness of Lonzo Ball, Big Baller Brand kind of destroying his ankles there. And honestly, neither of these teams are going to do anything where I could make an argument in the West. But how is your hopium meter right now for the Atlanta Hawks and the Chicago Bulls?
Well, I think the Bulls, it's like 0, or
0?
maybe like 20. Like if it's on a scale of 100, the Bulls are at like 20 because their ceiling is this in-season tournament, is this tournament thing here, the play-in tournament.
Yeah.
Like I can't see them, like maybe they beat the Hawks, maybe, but then they run into a team like the Heat in the next round of the play-in tournament, and they're not going to beat the Heat.
Yeah.
So I think like their ceiling is winning a play-in tournament game, and so honestly, you might as well not even be in the playoffs. I think the Bulls should be out. I don't think they win. I think I would actually take the Hawks in that.
Yeah.
But the hope meter is pretty low.
Yeah, I would take the Hawks in this too, especially if we get a healthy Trae Young back. If this team can start to get healthy, I think if Embiid isn't playing, they could even beat the Philadelphia 76ers. And we currently have the Miami Heat and the Philadelphia 76ers scheduled to face off here. And I have Miami in this. I really like the addition of Terry Rozier. Adam Driver has been a really good addition. I liked him in the dunk contest. Watch his interview with JJ Redick. So Adam Driver is a good addition to that team. Can we get a healthy Tyler Hero? Then we're in business because for some reason, and I can't explain why, Jimmy Butler could not give a single fuck about the NBA regular season. And you know why? He's like, I want to be the 7th seed again. Because you know who I'm going to face? Milwaukee. They have no chance of catching Boston. Boston is 57-14, while Milwaukee is 11 games behind them at this point. So he knows he is locked into a rematch with the Milwaukee Bucks against the best, worst coach in the NBA. Had to add the second worst on there. Friend of the show, Doc Rivers.
Friend of the show, indeed. Yeah. Miami, they remind me, and I think I used this analogy a couple weeks ago. They remind me of like the Ravens of the 2000s, where like regular season, maybe they're 9-8, 10-7 at the time. We're talking about 9-7 and 10-6 or whatever. But when they reach the playoffs, no matter who they face, they're going to make the other team nervous because Jimmy Butler, he's made it to 2 finals. He's been, even when he had the Kyle Lowrys of the world, obviously he made it to the bubble championship, and then he made it back to the finals again. So I think that the Heat would have to win that play-in tournament, and I think they would even beat the Bucks when it comes time in the first round.
Yeah, because my problem with Milwaukee is I'm like, you got Dame, and you can drop probably 120 to 140 a night. But at the same time, people are like, oh, Bobby Portis. And I'm like, yes, Bobby Portis. I've seen Bobby Portis in the playoffs plenty of times, and he's come up plenty of times disappointing. Another person who comes up disappointing for Milwaukee, Brook Lopez. Where do you go in the playoffs? Where every time you're off the floor, Milwaukee's like, oh, pretty good team in the playoffs. And then he comes back, and Brook Lopez just ruins that team when he's on the court, and he's not a good playoff performer. He's a great regular season center at this point, but in the playoffs, he hasn't really been the guy for them. And then also, are we just going to ignore the fact that Giannis is dealing with injuries?
Yeah. No, I think that plus this team, you mentioned them firing a coach midseason, replacing him with the best, worst coach in NBA history, arguably. So like this Bucks team, between Giannis's injuries, between the chemistry issues, between them firing a coach midseason, between them going on that streak that they went on where they were just terrible, and then on the other side of it, facing a team like the Heat who have that fear factor in them after all these playoff runs that they've been on, this is almost a guarantee. It feels like Vegas is begging for me to gamble.
Yeah.
So I would take, in this case, the Bucks to lose to the Heat in that first round. Play-in tournament, doesn't matter about the 9 and 10 seeds. They're going to lose to the inevitable winner, the Heat.
Yeah, and it's like, Milwaukee, what perimeter defense? Like, Grayson Allen's gone. He's having a career year, even though the Suns have been struggling. So, and then we have Philadelphia there. I think, do you see Atlanta or Philadelphia? I think Philadelphia is probably going to get the A seed, lose in Florida, Boston.
Yeah, I think if it's how it always is, I mean, The Sixers, Celtics are talking about the NBA. Similar to the NFL, they want those matchups in the NBA playoffs. And I think
Yeah.
if they can find a way to have the Sixers face the Celtics, just for that once again, another licking in the playoffs. Joel Embiid, his father, he likes to come home every once in a while, go back to Boston, get some nice warm bread, get some pizza at the local North end in Boston, and get some nice warm milk from his father to end his season, some nice warm cookies to end it all. So I think the Celtics steamroll the Sixers, they sweep them, and then they go on to the next round.
Yeah, and then let's go over these two brackets real quick. They're pretty much locked in to face each other. Even though the Knicks could slide up to that 3 seed there, but currently we have Philadelphia versus Indiana, and at this point, I'm kind of over the Donovan Mitchell experiment because Donovan Mitchell, I'm sorry, you lost to the Knicks last year. Like, what am I supposed to do with that? First of all, it's like, okay, it's Cleveland. We get it. They're used to disappointment. It gets cold there in the winter, and no shade to Cleveland. It's a nice city, but like it's still the Cavaliers without LeBron James. And then Donovan Mitchell dealing with some injury issues. I don't like that. And then Tyrese Halliburton. Do I have more faith in him to step up at this point, or do I have more faith in Darius Garland? It's kind of a coin flip, but I will definitely take Tyrese Halliburton in the series to be the best player. And I honestly think that the Pacers can upset the Cleveland Cavaliers. The Cavs, I'm just kind of like, when I see quotes of Evan Mobley saying, "Oh, this is a lot harder than I thought it was." Yeah, it's the NBA playoffs. They don't watch film in the regular season or prepare nearly as intensely. And it just so happens that Tom Thibodeau is a pretty good coach in the NBA.
Yes, he really is. No, I think the Cavs, I was watching their games out at the bar this weekend. The Cavaliers, to me, they're just the epitome of like an average East team where no matter who they face off with, maybe it goes 6 or 7 games, but they don't do anything overly impressive to me. Like their bigs are solid, but not great. Their guards, I do like Darius Garland a lot, and I like Donovan Mitchell to watch, but when it comes to like championship pedigree, like really, I don't really trust anybody outside of the Celtics and Heat in this East, and maybe the Bucks you can throw into there too, but the Cavaliers, with the Pacers, they have a better coach. I like their 1-2 punch with Halliburton and Siakam. So, like, I would take the Pacers to win in this case. I think they would upset them.
Do the Cavaliers remind you of the Toronto Raptors?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Like with DeMar, Kyle, we had Valanciunas. That's fine. We cycle in Amir Johnson.
Well, hey, Valanciunas, you could say like Jared Allen or Evan Mobley, like maybe similar styles there. And then like Darius Garland, I like a lot, but like where does he rank as far as like NBA? Like, is he a top 20 player? I don't know. It's an argument, but I don't think he's there. There's a lot of great players. So
yeah, I feel like I know if we went through the top 20 NBA players, it's not Darius Garland.
If he's if he's in the top 20, he's 20.
Yeah.
And we'd have to really go through it, and I don't think he would be there.
Yeah, but like Tyrese Halliburton, he's not the best player on his team, which is Donovan Mitchell. And Donovan Mitchell just doesn't have a good pace in the playoffs.
Yeah. So I think that we would see the Pacers upset.
Yeah.
And then the next game, this next series is spicy. We got the Knicks and the Magic. Now, you already know where I'm going to go. So where do you think this matchup goes?
It has to be the Knicks, right? Like,
Damn right.
Orlando, like, please. Okay, congrats, Magic. You got to the playoffs. Oh, we don't know what it's like to be in the playoff picture without Dwight Howard and Shaq. Well, okay. It'll be this year, maybe the year after that. You're finally starting to, hit on your draft picks, sign some quality players on your team. Congratulations. You're the 5th seed. But Jalen Brunson last year, with what he did with that team, and then you take a look at someone like Julius Randle, who somehow makes history for all the wrong reasons, and they were still able to overcome just how awful he was. And then you talk about an OG on your team. Yes, you literally have an OG,
and
not just figuratively, but by name, he's an OG. Then you also have someone like a Josh Hart, Dante DiVincenzo.
Yes.
You have a coach who's been in these situations before. Give me Jalen Brunson. He can take it. He'll play the minutes and puts up buckets.
I actually really like the Knicks this year, and it's unfortunate because I'm not a guy who usually falls for the hype, but this year I like Jalen Brunson a lot. I like that they made that OG Anunoby trade, which I think they won that trade. And their role players like Josh Hart, any given night, can hit 7 or 8 threes. Dante DiVincenzo, he's been really good for them. Like, I like Dante DiVincenzo a lot, and they have some really nice role players. This is a team that I think their ceiling is Eastern Conference Finals, but I think they can win a playoff series 100%.
Their ceiling is the Eastern. Well, no. Well, if they get the 3 seed, yes, I think they could make the Eastern Conference Finals, but you have to get out of the Celtics bracket.
Yes.
So if you're the Cavaliers, and you're the Magic right now, you're all within a game of each other. And that game is huge because that game is the difference between, are we going to play potentially Miami or Milwaukee in the second round, or are we going to play Boston in the second round? And right now, did you know Boston has not lost a home game to an Eastern Conference opponent this year?
I did not know that, but I'm not surprised. I think the Knicks, if they can avoid the Celtics at all costs, when they face the Celtics, they're going to get destroyed. I'm not that crazy. I haven't drank the Kool-Aid. I'm not overdosed. I am not a sentient being. The Knicks will not beat the Celtics. They will probably not win a single game. However, if they face the Bucks, I don't know. Things could get crazy. Doc Rivers versus Tom Thibodeau. I like Tom Thibodeau there. I don't know. It could get kind of spicy. If Giannis is banged up and it's Dame versus Jalen Brunson, we got two dogs head to head, but then role players wise, I don't know. I like what the Knicks got.
Doc Rivers versus Tom Thibodeau. Oh, whose voice can last longer? It's like, hey, guys. So that's going to be like, if you're a reporter and you're stuck on that playoff series, good luck in those press conferences. It's just going to be Tom Thibodeau, Doc Rivers up there like, we played a great game. I think we can do better. Like,
Please drink water.
yeah, we know both those guys are supporting RFK Jr.
Yeah,
Like,
no kidding.
guys, I think to support the economy, we need
Water.
to fire Doc Rivers from the Milwaukee Bucks so they don't blow a 3-1 lead with Giannis.
Water. Drink water.
Drink water if you're a coach in the series. And then we have Boston. I think they're going to be any team, and we'll do a deeper dive on Boston in the next couple of weeks when we talk about our number 1 seeds. But let's shift over to the West because this is way more interesting, honestly,
Yes, way more
because
interesting.
we have a chance to have Luka, LeBron James, Anthony Davis, Kyrie Irving, Steph Curry, the zombified corpse of Klay Thompson, Draymond Green's kicks, and either De'Aaron Fox or Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, and Bradley Beal have a chance to be in this because currently the Kings, the Mavericks, and the Suns are all have the same record. The Suns are just up a half game, and they're all 7-3 in their past 10 games. We have a chance to see some legends in this in-season tournament. And honestly, after this year, I was kind of like iffy on the in-season tournament. But this, we're like, oh, this is just like the final send-off for your childhood heroes.
Yeah, and it's kind of sad because this Warriors team, right now you're slated to see Lakers and Warriors, which could very well be the last time that we see Steph and LeBron face each other in the playoffs. And honestly, like, both teams are not going to go far. The Lakers don't have any perimeter defense, and the Warriors are so Steph dependent. It's honestly upsetting for a guy who just turned 36. Like,
Yeah.
it's sad, but you're going to see, I think it still will be a great series and a great game overall. But I honestly, it's kind of a coin flip who I'd pick, but I'd probably pick the Lakers as of right now. But it's honestly like you flip a coin, whoever wins that. I know Steph Curry historically owns LeBron in the all-time series, but I think that, I don't know. But Lakers and Warriors, it's just a great matchup. So I'm honestly happy with whoever wins that one.
Yeah, Steph feels like he always loses these games to LeBron. But it's like one game. If it's a one game, though, it's like Steph does have the potential to go nuclear. I believe they beat the Lakers recently here, but again, it is that the Lakers just seem a lot bigger than the Golden State Warriors, so it's going to be on LeBron James to do it. And then also, if you're the Lakers, you really need the 7th seed because you've lost 13 straight games to the Denver Nuggets. Do the math there. Does that lend itself to winning 4 out of 7 games in a first round series when you have no perimeter defense and Michael Porter is 6'10"? You have Christian Braun. He's on the team, I guess. And then Jamal Murray.
It's true, he is.
It's true, he is. And then Jamal Murray, who is a absolute furnace in the playoffs and takes his game to another level. It's like, all right, whoever gets the 8th seed, you're toast.
Yeah, no, you are. And I think Honestly, the Lakers should try to shoot for the 6th seed, but I don't think that's even attainable.
Yeah.
They should try to avoid the Nuggets like the plague, and that'll be how they do it. Because the 2nd seed, I believe, is the Thunder. The Thunder, I think the Thunder will take care of the Lakers. They'll probably beat them in 5 or 6, but
Yeah.
I think the Thunder you have more of a chance with because that team is so young. Playing against an all-time great like LeBron or even Steph in this case, either of the two,
Yeah.
like you could maybe see them not play to their best ability. You're facing off against a top 5 player of all time. Like maybe then you could see that there. Maybe Anthony Davis is more consistent in the playoffs. The Lakers, you saw the run they went on last year, making it to the Western Conference Finals. Anything's possible. The Thunder are a better team, but they are really young. So anything, you could see them potentially slip in the playoffs.
Yeah, that's always like is this going to harm them or is it going to help them? The thing I like with the Thunder a lot, though, is Jalen Williams is arriving as a legitimate number 2 there to go along with SGA. And then also, the only person not shooting above 37% from 3 is Josh Giddey. Chet Holmgren is letting it fly. Like, everyone on this team is letting it like even Gordon Hayward, he's shooting like 55% right now.
That's insane.
So like this team is a team that can shoot it. Both of their centers can shoot threes here, but they're also a team that knows when to take their shots. It's a great team to deep dive, especially with how they built after the Kevin Durant era. But really what I would want to see is Mavericks Thunder in the first round. I think it'd be absolutely electric, especially when you have Luka and Kyrie. I think it would be a 7-game series. Maybe it takes the Thunder or the Mavericks a few games to get going, but I think inevitably like Luka and Kyrie could take over, or we see the Thunder rise to the occasion there. But I think that would be the best case scenario for the first round, or seeing the Mavericks slide up there and face the Timberwolves. And I hope that the Mavericks get the 6th seed ideally and then push down the Suns into that in-season tournament, because talk about a disappointing team. Like, okay, we go out there, get Devin Booker, who's on the team in the draft. Then we trade for Kevin Durant, give up all of our assets. Oh, no, we don't have a bench. Who would have thought? It didn't work in Brooklyn. They're like, oh, no, we don't have a bench. And then the Suns trade for him, and they're like, oh, same thing that happened in Brooklyn. How could we have seen this coming? And then you trade for Bradley Beal, and then they're like, oh, they've only played I think like 23 games together as a unit. And then Kevin Durant there's one stretch where over the past 5 games, he had 4 points in the 4th quarter.
Dude.
For Kevin Durant, I'm like, why is Kevin Durant taking a back seat? Which is the most frustrating part about Kevin Durant. I know Kevin Durant. I don't play basketball. I'm not an NBA player. Means I know nothing and can't talk basketball.
Whatever you do, don't check Twitter.
Whatever you do, don't check Twitter, KD. And then they're like, oh, Bradley Beal has an injury issue. He's hurt. That's weird. Devin Booker's had hamstring issues. Kevin Durant's had injury issues over the past 5 years. It's like, what are we doing? Like, who built this team? Like, you have 3 players that do the same thing that all have injury issues.
Yeah.
What a great idea.
Honestly, I'm okay with the Suns falling into that in-season tournament. Like, whether it's them facing the Warriors or facing the Mavericks, I think that would set up a good narrative, especially with KD versus Kyrie. You got the breakup. No matter what, I think the Suns are more interesting in the play-in tournament with any of the 3 matchups that are currently there. And then I think the Kings against the Timberwolves, I would take the Kings to beat the Timberwolves.
Yeah. I mean,
honestly,
it'd be the battle of the useless centers. Who's more useless in the playoffs? Is it Sabonis or Rudy Gobert?
I think Rudy's much more useless.
Yeah,
100%.
I mean, yeah, he has no offensive skills, which is kind of a problem in the NBA.
Well, at least he can dunk.
Yeah.
Which is something. Can you dunk?
Actually, he can set picks and roll.
And he can block shots like a motherfucker.
He goes up real high and throws it down.
It's amazing how good of a blocker a 7'3" center is. Who knew?
Yeah. Anthony Edwards, though, I will say is a bright spot for that team. But at the same time, I'm like, Mike Conley? Really?
Still?
Hey,
you're talking about the horse champion. You better watch your mouth.
The horse I'm sorry. The horse champion, Mike Conley.
The winner of Zoom.
Yeah, but I think that 6th seed is inevitably going to beat the Timberwolves. If it's not the Suns, I would take the Timberwolves, honestly, to beat the Suns, though. And then I think the Kings and the Mavericks make it out. Honestly, I think the Lakers and the Warriors both miss out on the playoffs. And then if I had to pick a team that's not the Mavericks or the Kings, I would say if the Lakers is gonna make the playoffs, I would swap out probably the Kings, sadly. But like Kyrie and Luca in a one and done scenario, I can't pick against them. And then we get up to the 4 versus the 5. Currently, it's the Clippers and the Pelicans right now.
Very good series.
Very good series. And the interesting thing is, after the All-Star break, we gave Zion a lot of grief for the season tournament, and deservedly so. But after that, he's lost 20 pounds, and he's averaging 28, I believe, 8 rebounds and 4 assists. Yeah, so 7 rebounds and 4 assists in 27 games after the All-Star break. That's a pretty big sample size, and they're starting to use him now as a ball handler. And now we're starting to see the Zion Williamson we were promised, and kind of reminds me similar to Joel Embiid when Joel Embiid was drafted. Like, he had some injury issues, wasn't able to play the first few years. Giannis and Embiid both have weight issues. Definitely two very different issues there, but kind of had some injuries, and now Zion is turning into the point guard. So it's like, okay, now we can spread everyone else out and put Zion kind of in that center position. And you have CJ McCollum there who can fill it up. You have Brandon Ingram there, and then you have some really good young 3-and-D guys on this team. And then the other side, it's like versus a team that's way too young, where your best players, same age as me, 23, versus James Harden. I mean, Russell Westbrook, who is currently out right now for the rest of the season, so he's not even there. And then it's what's left of Paul George, and is Kawhi Leonard going to stay healthy for the whole series? If you had to pick today, do you think the way too young team wins or the old team wins?
Well, that's a tough one. I think that I really like the Clippers roster, but I think the Pelicans are ascending fast.
Yeah.
With how Zion's playing, I mean, we remember 2019 well. We remember how good that Duke team was, how fun and exciting Zion was. And I was really let down the last few years with how Zion's been, whether it was his weight issues, whether it was with the porn star, whether it was with all the different injuries that he incurred. I was really worried. But now to see him rise up, I think that I would take the Pelicans here just because they're hotter. They're less decrepit, and they're much younger as well. Yeah. So I'd take the Pelicans to win.
Yeah, I would probably still take the Clippers, specifically coaching, number one. Tyronn Lue, maybe the best tactical coach in the NBA at this point, at least in the Western Conference, not named Mike Malone. And then we also have Kawhi Leonard, who last playoff run, Kawhi was pretty gnarly with what he was doing to the Phoenix Suns in that first round. I thought Kawhi Leonard played great there. So if we get that Kawhi Leonard, I think the Clippers will be able to get by. Do I think they'll be in the Western Conference Finals? Probably not, because you're currently slated to face the Denver Nuggets, and you're a couple games behind the Timberwolves, and the Pelicans may pass you and get home court advantage. So I could see like maybe the Pelicans win 2 games at home, and then the Clippers adjust and start to come back in that series. But I think overall, the West, every single first round matchup is going to be entertaining.
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely. Even the in-season, like even the play-in tournament is fantastic.
Yeah.
Play-in tournament, I want to see the Mavericks make it into the 6th seed, and then see some sort of match. I want to see the Suns in the play-in tournament.
Yeah.
But I think it's the Nuggets and Celtics that we're poised to see.
Yeah, I definitely want to see the Suns in the play-in tournament. Let's get the Mavericks out of there. Come on. You got Luka. Come on, Kyrie. You can do it. And then your trade acquisitions at the deadline were really good. So I think overall, setting up to be a very explosive NBA playoff. So excited to keep talking about it as the weeks go by here. We've also been talking about the NBA draft, talking about the NFL draft over the past few weeks, add a segment to our show. And I thought with Zion Williamson after the All-Star break, what better draft to go over than Zion Williamson's? Because it's kind of an interesting draft. Because if you asked everyone 2 years ago who messed up, who made a mistake, well, it would be like, Ja Morant maybe should have been the first overall pick. And now with Zion Williamson, if he can win a playoff series, which is something I don't think the Grizzlies have gotten past the first round yet, have they?
No, I don't think so.
And then Zion and Ja have both had injury issues, and then after that, it's like
RJ Barrett, who got traded to the Raptors, and he's been very inconsistent. Has not lived up to expectations whatsoever.
Yeah. So it's like redrafting those 3. It's like, okay, Would RJ Barrett be in the top 3? Absolutely not, because I would take DeAndre Hunter over him, who ended up being dealt to the who was traded to the Hawks after that, and then after first being traded to the Pelicans. And then at 5, friend of the show, Darius Garland.
Darius Garland would go 3 at this point. If this draft was going over again, he might even go 2 to the Grizzlies potentially, depending on where you slate him against John Morant.
Yeah, because like injury-wise, we could look back at this draft and be like, wow, Ja, that was cool, but he's kind of on the Derrick Rose trajectory at this point, and I hate to say it, where he plays so far above the rim, it's going to be tough for him to stay healthy. And then Darius Garland, he's not as good as Ja, but just as a point guard, very good NBA player and a lot more durable than John Morant. And what do they say? Availability is the best ability.
Yeah, exactly. So I think redraft today, I think Zion still goes number 1 though, just because what his upside can be and what we've seen the last 30 games or so.
Yeah.
I think he's got so much excitement there. I think he'd still go 1.
And then we're in the part of the NBA draft where I feel like the first round of the NBA draft, is it just me, or do we hit a point where we're like, what happened? Who are all these average guys that just are there to fill out rosters? And perfect example, Jarrett Culver.
I don't even know where he's playing anymore.
Yeah. And yeah, maybe I'm a casual. Call him a casual.
Call him a casual in the comments.
He can take it. And then the Bulls draft Kobe White.
It's pretty nice.
Does he spell it with a K? No. So
no.
Doesn't pass the name test.
Hashtag not my Kobe.
Hashtag not my Kobe. And then we have the Hawks draft Jackson Hayes and trade him to the Pelicans. Jackson Hayes been a pretty good 3-and-D guy, pretty good defender there. So at number 8, that's okay. And then Wizards at number 9 draft Rui Hachimura. Oh, the Lakers savior last year in the playoffs.
The Lakers savior, yeah.
Guys, he can hit a 3.
He's a role player.
He's a role player. And we're in that player where all these players, like, these are good role players. And then Cameron Johnson.
Yeah. He's okay.
PJ Washington.
He's a role player.
He's good.
A lot of role players.
He's good. But he was drafted by the Hornets, so who am I to judge?
Yeah.
And then after that, Tyler Hero. Congratulations to Tyler Hero. You were in a Jack Harlow song.
You had a song named after you.
You had a song named after you by Jack Harlow.
The one that hit me the most looked just like me. You tell me what that means.
Yeah, my dogs play Madden and 2K, but one thing you never do is play about me. Tyler Hero. You don't play.
True.
Unless when it's Madden or 2K. Yeah, he's probably the best player. He would probably go 5 in this draft if we were redrafting.
5 or 6, yeah.
I would say 5. I would say like Darius Garland at 3, and then probably 4 actually for Tyler Hero.
Yeah.
And then after that, Romeo Langford,
Bust.
Celtics. What were you?
Bust.
This
Bust.
is like the last of those Danny Ainge picks. Where like, what were you thinking?
Yeah.
You're like, we needed some shooting now. It's like, yeah, don't get Romeo Langford.
Yeah. Well, guess what? We got Romeo Langford for, I think, Derek White. I think we got Derek White for him.
Oh.
So
well,
thanks, Danny Ainge. One thing
Danny
you did right.
Ainge. One thing he did right. But Brad Stevens flipped him for Derek White.
Yes. Give credit to Brad Stevens.
Danny Ainge would be like, no, I promise he can get
not
better,
a second
guys.
round, not a second round pick.
He can get better. And then the Pistons draft Sekou Doumbouya.
Yep.
Great anime name. NBA. I don't know.
A+ name, D+ player.
D+ player. Pistons.
Pistons love drafting international players who don't pan out.
The Magic drafted Chuma Okeke.
I
haven't really been following his career. Kevin Wilde's and Magic enthusiast. Maybe tune into Kevin Wilde's show. He could tell you more about Chuma Okeke. Go ahead and spam his X feed with that if you want, or Twitter, whatever you call it. And then, yeah.
That's it. The drafts.
Celtics at 22 draft Grant Williams.
Front of the show. Thickness himself.
Brandon Clark to the Grizzlies. He's a good player. He's a fine player.
Yeah. What else we got?
Nasir Little.
Jordan Poole.
Jordan Poole at number 28 in this draft. I think Kevin Porter. Kevin Porter Jr.
That's not bad.
Yeah.
And then
we got number 31. We got Nick Claxton.
Nice.
Carson Edwards, who I get Romeo Langford confused with on the Celtics.
Often, many people do.
And then after that, let's see if we have anyone out. Eric Paschall with the Warriors. That was just when they needed players to fill out their roster. We had Bol Bol.
Bol. Dude, I wanted Bol Bol so bad on the Celtics. He played for the Celtics for a minute, and then now he's the Sun legend.
Yeah, this was the last player in this draft I want to talk about. THT, Taylor Horton Tucker. No shade to THT at all. More shade to how stupid Lakers fans are. And it's almost on the same level as Boston Celtics fans. Or honestly, Celtics fans are probably the smartest of the New England sports fans, besides maybe Red Sox fans. Bruins fans are pretty realistic, but like it's on the same level as Patriots. We're like, we're going to trade THT for Damian Lillard.
Who?
Or Donovan Mitchell. Or
Paul George.
Trae Young. They're like, what? Who's going to take THT for anyone? And then you ended up giving him over to the Jazz for who? Who'd they trade him for?
Oh, man. Wasn't he? He wasn't a part of the Anthony Davis trade. So he was a part of the
Yeah.
Roy Hachimura trade, I think.
Yeah. Well, he ended up going to the Jazz, but it could have been a part of a 3-team deal. But the main takeaway
he was
from
a part
that,
of the Russell Westbrook trade.
the Russell Westbrook trade. Yeah. The main takeaway, though, is you didn't trade him for a Hall of Famer.
Well, Russell Westbrook's a Hall of Famer.
Not that, Russ.
Not that,
That's like
Russ.
trading for 36-year-old Ben Roethlisberger.
That was like trading for Russell Wilson Broncos.
Yeah.
So
That's like trading for Jason Kidd on the Knicks.
that's like trading for Shaq on the Celtics.
Yeah.
Pretty bad.
Yeah.
That's okay. All right. We got our jokes in.
We had Bol Bol. And then Terrence Mann in that draft. Terrence Mann is doing some things. But like the second round is honestly better than the first round in this draft, which is crazy. I'm not talking about the top 3 picks, but like there's some pretty solid players you get in the second round.
I want Bol Bol to still pan out. There's still faith for Bol Bol.
This draft? No. Shout out to Vanja Marinkovic.
Mr. Irrelevant.
For being the last pick in this draft.
Waiting for the Brock Purdy arc.
Waiting for that arc there. But yeah, that was the 2022 draft. So overall, do you think this is one of the worst drafts in NBA history? How would you rank it now that you've seen it again?
Well, I don't think it's the worst draft because the 2013 draft exists. That's a pretty terrible draft. Anthony Bennett, for those who forget. I think there's enough stars there that, like, you know, you have your Zions, you have your John Morants, Darius Garland, even some role players like Tyler Hero. Like if we're ranking it, like it's probably like middle of the pack, right? Like over the last decade, it's probably middle of the pack. Zion has a chance to elevate. John Morant, he's going to be someone that people will remember in 10 years, 15 years. He's going to have his Derrick Rose arc. So I think it's a fine draft. It's definitely not the worst.
Yeah, it's definitely not the worst draft. I wouldn't say it's terrible. We had some fine role players here, like Grant Williams, Rui Hachimura, PJ Washington, pretty good player. And some of these role players will make an impact in your starting lineup or off the bench. But overall, that was the 2019 NBA draft. Let us know what you thought about it. Were there any role players that we missed that were like so casual that we just don't follow the NBA enough? Because like I haven't seen too many of these other players on teams where I'm like, wow, in the playoffs, that was a great play by this guy. So if there's someone that we missed in this draft, please let us know who we missed out on. Who would you take number 1 overall? Are you taking Ja? Are you taking Darius Garland? Or is it still Zion Williamson with what he's about to do in this playoffs? Definitely let us know there. And then do you have time for Mr. Lamar?
Fuck it. Let's talk about Kendrick.
All right. So I was in the gym and I went into the sauna, open up YouTube, and then everyone's like, Kendrick. And then I turn on the song and then I was like, oh,
Kendrick Lamar.
oh,
This is Drake and J. Cole responding to first person shooter, going at it, saying he is the king, and insinuating that he is the GOAT, insinuating that he is the best in the rap game, which, given the reaction that it's gotten since it came out, I think he proved his point. So calls out whatever just dropped. He's clearly in here.
Yeah.
Calls out Drake, calls out J. Cole, and now the rap community awaits a response from these two.
Yeah, the rap community awaits a response, and we deserve a response because rap part of it is it's a competitive and part of it is a sport where battle rap was a legitimate part of rap. And then also diss tracks, we've seen pretty much every single generation's top two rappers go at it. We've seen Tupac and Biggie go at it. We have seen Jay-Z and Nas go at it. We've seen this isn't like the best two, but Kanye's one of the or Kanye, not Kanye, Drake and Kanye went at it a little bit with the Scoop D song, whereas
Scoop D Poop,
almost a diss track in a way, more of a troll. And then Pusha T and Drake. We've seen some of the best rap battles in history take place, and we deserve it because rap is part of it. Being an MC is a competitive sport, and when it comes down to it, music is subjective. And it's going to be subjective with most people. And my thing is, if Eminem can respond to Machine Gun Kelly, J. Cole better respond to Kendrick Lamar, and Drake better respond too. Because, like, if you're going to go at it with Pusha T and then you're going to be like, I don't want any smoke with Kendrick. Oh, so you're just going to punch down? Is that how that works?
Yeah.
And then same with J. Cole. It's like, if you're going to like have smoke with other rappers or not even diss people, it's like, what is your love for hip hop? Because as hip hop fans, we all want to see it. And I feel like objectively, Kendrick makes the best music out of all of them. I feel like Drake is definitely more pop for me. And I feel like he makes the worst music between the three as far as straight hip hop. And J. Cole, it's like you have Forest Hill Drives, but overall, Kendrick doesn't drop as much music. But when he does, it's more experimental and it also dives into the genre. And then just the little subliminals that people missed in that, like that Kendrick layered throughout that one verse, I thought was pretty cool with like all these goofies with the check when he was talking about that. And there's a lot of subtleties, I feel like a lot of disses that people missed in that verse that deserve a response.
I think that, and I mentioned it when I first talked about it, the fact that they don't want to answer and they're claiming that they were the GOATs. If you listen to First Person Shooter, claiming that they're two of the best MCs of all. Well, if you are, you got to prove your stripes, you know? Like, I think that doing a diss track, not only is it fun, and it really is, like, they're not going to go and kill each other over this. Like,
No.
It's all fun, but at the same time, like, prove it to Kendrick, prove to the world why you think you're the GOAT, because at the end of the day, it's subjective. J. Cole fans are going to say that J. Cole's the GOAT. Drake fans are going to say Drake's the GOAT. All of them are fantastic. Like, all of them are great to some extent.
Yeah.
Drake obviously has the great numbers. He's got some great songs. J. Cole, he's got some great penmanship. He's got his skills. Kendrick Lamar has released not one, not two, not three, 4 all-time great rap hip-hop albums of all time.
Yeah.
So all these guys are great. They're all in the GOAT conversation. But, like, let's go out and go head-to-head for the sake of hip-hop. Because hip-hop desperately needs another East Coast, West Coast, like, forming of the Avengers. You know that if Kendrick is going at it, you're going to have Baby Keem on his side. You're going to have Metro Boomin, who's clearly on his side now.
Yeah.
Kanye will probably be on his side. You got some of these guys on their sides. And then on the other side, J. Cole. Yeah, Dreamville. Yeah, you'll have them. So do it for the sport. Do it for the sport of hip-hop. Do it for the fans. And let's hear a diss track.
Yeah.
Just for the sake of it.
Because, like, we got... What do we got? We got Meg the Stallion. Was she dissing Nicki Minaj earlier this year, right?
Yeah, they've been beefing forever, yeah.
Yeah, and then it's like the biggest like rap battle that people can remember late was MGK versus Eminem, and everyone loved it.
Yeah,
and it was fun. Like,
it was a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun, and like both of them set records when they dropped it, and like that can't be what we have. Just one of the best rappers of all time punching down at someone like MGK who's like starting stuff with him. But like Drake, if you're gonna diss Pusha T, why can't you respond to Kendrick? Because he's clearly calling both of them out, and I think he's the better rapper of both of them. And like J. Cole's lane is he's like, well, I made Forest Hill Drive and I produce a lot of my beats and I write all of my own music, where Kendrick is like, well, just because you make your own beats doesn't mean you're a better musician than me, because I'll be the better rapper. I'm going to make a album with Thundercat. Then I'm going to make the best pop album of the year, and Damn. And then Good Kid Mad City is one of the best freshman debut of any rapper. I believe that was his freshman.
That was his first one was Section 80, but Good Kid Mad City, like, follows the theme of like traditional hip hop. All of them they're all concept albums
Yeah.
at the end of it. So yeah, I agree. I think that Kendrick being able to diss both of them and then all of them like just go head to head at the end of it.
Yeah, and we want to see it because at the end of the day, like hip hop is a sport and people listen to hip hop for different reasons. But I like the competitive aspect. I'm like, okay, if you think your guy is the best and you think your guy's the best, how about we make a beef? Let's do it.
Yeah, and
I think
plus,
it'd be fun.
ultimately, with the fandom, all of them are going to say they won at the end of it. You know, Eminem fans said that they won. MGK fans said that they won. The beef was fine. And then at the end of it, when the dust finally settles, some people on either side might go to the other side and say, maybe you were actually right.
Yeah.
When the dust settles. But right now, Kendrick, if nobody answers, he won. So are you going to just submit and be like, all right, yep, he's the king? No. You guys go out and fight.
Yeah, and do you feel like he had a right to kind of feel slighted that they're saying like they're the two goats of the generation? When Kendrick, like when he drops, I feel like he always has that year down on lock. Like Drake has more streams than him, but is anyone gonna say For All the Dogs is better than Mr. Morale?
No.
No.
I think this like discography wise, like we want to talk about one of the best runs in hip hop. We're talking about Kendrick Lamar for sure. And I also think that just the reaction that we got from this, with the reaction that we got when Range Brothers and Family Ties came out, like every time Kendrick is on a feature, whether it's the Control verse, whether it's the first Family Ties, whenever he's featured on a song, the world stops and like, oh, Kendrick has spoken. So
was he on One Train too?
Yeah, back then, yeah.
Yeah, with ASAP. But I want to see it. All of you should want to see it. So make sure if you're diehard J. Cole fan, let him know. Let him know.
Fan.
If you're a Drizzy fan, all of you in Canada somewhere, let him know that you want to respond. But I want to see this materialize into some diss tracks because we haven't had like a beef this massive in a long time. Probably all the way back to Jay-Z versus Nas. I'm sure there's some I'm missing in there, but it's just been like Drake versus Pusha T. But I'm like, I want to see top tier. And if this is the big three of hip hop for like the 2010s, outside of like Eminem and Kanye West, who people think is the top three, then let's find out who's the best the old-fashioned way.
Yeah, good old-fashioned rhymes. But most importantly of all, stay brick.